In this video, I am going to share with you how binge eating and food addiction almost destroyed my life, and I'm going to share with you how you can overcome it just like I did. Stay tuned. The one thing that people talk a lot about when it comes to binge eating and food addiction really are the physical effects of it. For example, I used to be 300 pounds. I was 100 pounds overweight while I was in middle school. So you can imagine the toll that took on me, not just physically, but also mentally and psychologically. And when you struggle with binge eating, you know how hard it is to kind of break free from the guilt, the embarrassment, and really the struggle with telling yourself you're a failure because you keep binge eating and keep falling short. So, one thing a lot of people are familiar with is being overweight, being out of shape, gaining weight from binge eating or gaining weight from being a food addict, but no one really talks about the psychological effects and how it could drag you down and how it could really force you to miss out on a lot of opportunities in life. And there were so many things that I missed out on in my life because I was embarrassed of how I looked. I was embarrassed of, being the overweight kid, the overweight guy. I lost so many opportunities with, girls going on dates, going to school dances. I remember just this psychological effect that it had on me. And even with binge eating, once I started losing weight, once I started getting in shape and I started demonizing certain foods, I remember that I specifically wouldn't go to certain places. I wouldn't go to certain events. I wouldn't even go on family vacations if I thought there was a possibility that I was going to end up binge eating and mess up my entire diet. So one thing I could tell you for sure is, with binge eating, with food addiction, there is a large psychological effect that could sometimes outlast even the physical effect of binge eating and food addiction. The ironic thing is that I did not look like someone who was a binge eater after I lost all the weight. But the truth is once I lost all the weight and actually got in shape, that's when my binging was almost at its worst because I was demonizing certain foods. I was avoiding certain foods. But then when I would have my cheat meal or cheat day, it was like a free-for-all, and I would eat everything in sight to the point of pretty much getting sick. And then on Monday morning, I would hit the reset button and start over essentially from square one, right? So the one thing you really have to realize is food addiction and binge eating is a psychological battle that you have to overcome, because if you don't, it will drive you crazy and you will stay stuck and stay in a rut for years and years and years, and you'll never truly be able to break free from it. So I'm going to give you a few tips and a few tricks that have helped me to overcome and have put me on a path to success years later. One of the most important things I learned over the last 20 years of struggling with my binge eating disorder was if I just gave myself a little bit of grace and leeway and didn't hate myself after a binge, then I would have been able to get back on track much sooner and been on the path to success much earlier, instead of staying stuck and staying down on myself and hating myself and continuing the behaviors of someone who just keeps self-sabotaging. So just remember, you're gonna struggle on your journey. You're gonna binge eat periodically. There are still some times where I binge eat, and I'm a full-time fitness coach. So imagine how embarrassing that is for someone like me who is a full-time fitness coach, but I still binge eat from time to time. The only difference is now is I don't allow it to mess with my head. I wake up the next morning after it happens, I get my gym shoes on, I get my gym clothes on, I go right to the gym, and I completely forget that the binge ever happened. Whereas beforehand, what I would do is I would wake up the morning after a binge, I would feel lethargic, I would hate myself, I would be annoyed with myself, and then I would just lay around in bed and I would continue to binge eat all Sunday long. And then Monday, that's when I would eventually get back on track. But don't allow one binge to turn into 2 binges or 3 binges or an entire weekend or an entire week-long binge, because now, instead of having one binge, which really wouldn't hurt you that much anyway, now you've completely elongated it to where, now you possibly did gain 3, 4, 5 pounds, right? Now you have to undo much more damage than you did if you just would have binged one night, okay? So just remember, give yourself grace on this journey. If you screwed up, if you binged, it's perfectly fine. It's gonna happen. We're not robots, we're humans, okay? So just get back on track the very next day. Get back on your nutrition plan, get your butt to the gym, drink plenty of water so you could flush all the junk out, and I promise you, you'll be in a much better headspace moving forward. Secondly, the thing you don't want to do is continue to do the same things that drove you into binge eating to begin with. What I mean by that is, the reason why I was a big binge eater when I started my fitness journey was because I would demonize certain foods. I would tell myself French fries are bad, cookies are bad, hamburgers are bad, and I wouldn't have those foods all week long. And I would follow this really restrictive diet. I would eat just chicken and broccoli. I was essentially starving myself, overexerting myself with exercise. And then when the weekend would come, it was like a free-for-all. My cravings were through the roof. And the second I took a bite of a burger or a cookie or a French fry, it was game over. right? And I just went overboard. I binge ate all weekend long. And then Monday morning, I was essentially starting over. So the mistake that you're most likely making if you are a binge eater like myself is you're just over restricting yourself with calories. So make sure you're eating enough, you're fueling your body, okay? Our bodies are the greatest machine ever created, but you have to fuel it accordingly. If you're just going to the gym and overexerting yourself and overdoing cardio, but you're not giving yourself enough calories or enough protein, you're just hurting yourself and you're never gonna have the body you truly want. So the best way to figure out where your calories should be is take your goal body weight, multiply it by 10. So let's say you're 200 pounds right now and maybe your goal body weight is 170 pounds. Well, take 170 times 10, that's gonna be 1,700 calories per day. And that's gonna be a great number to hit if you wanna lose weight, get in shape. And then what you wanna do is make sure you're consuming enough protein. So how I figure out my protein goal each day is I take my goal body weight, multiply it by 1. So again, if your goal body weight is 170 pounds, do 170 times 1. That's gonna give you 170 grams of protein per day. So if you're hitting 1,700 calories per day and getting 170 grams of protein per day, you are going to be in a much better position. You're gonna feel full, you're gonna feel fueled, you're gonna feel good, and you're not gonna have those over-the-top cravings for sugar and fats and junk. So it's gonna be a lot easier to stay on your journey. And the best part is your body composition is gonna be greatly improved. You're gonna be building muscle and giving your body the raw materials it needs to really drop the body fat, but also build the muscle tissue. And the last thing you wanna do is just stay consistent. The biggest mistake as a fitness coach I see people make is they just jump from one thing to another and they never give something enough time to really work. If you are tracking your calories, if you're following the calorie equation that I just gave you, you can't just do it for a day or two, right? Because your body fluctuates in weight every single day. So depending on if you had carbs last night or maybe a little too much salt yesterday, your weight might be up 1 or 2 pounds for no reason at all. It doesn't mean you gained fat, it just means your body's retaining some water. So make sure you follow something for long enough. Make sure you're following, a certain nutrition plan for at least 2 weeks. Allow your body to adjust to it, to adapt to it, and then to respond to it, okay? You might not see any movement in your weight for the first 5 to 7 days, which is perfectly normal. But then in the second week, that's when your body really starts to dial it in, your metabolism begins to kick up, and now you might step on the scale and you might be down 2 or 3 pounds. So make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time to actually adjust and respond to what you're doing, because if you're just jumping from one diet to the next or one workout to the next, and you're never giving something enough time to truly work, then you're gonna be stuck on this vicious roller coaster of weight gain and weight loss for years and years and years. And I don't want that for you. I know I don't want that for myself. So make sure if you're following a certain nutrition plan, give it enough time to work. And I usually recommend at least 2 weeks. Stick with it for 2 weeks, and then I promise you, you're gonna see some movement begin to happen. I hope you enjoyed this video. I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed to the channel, and let me know below what else you want to see from me. If there's a certain topic on exercise, diet, binge eating, food addiction that you want me to cover, drop it below. And until next time, see ya.